Everybody, again, once again, welcome to Senior Marketing Specialist introduces the Ask Us Anything presentation or Ask Us Anything series, AEP Edition. We are 11 days out from October 1st, which of course starts the AEP marketing, which means that you cannot accept an application, but it is the time to start taking appointments, talking about 2026 plans changes. We do know that a lot of individuals have already started receiving their ANOCs, their annual notices of change, and are already getting a lot of questions. Before I introduce my other two guests, just to give you guys some context about why is this AEP expected to be as disruptive, if not more disruptive in 2026 than it was last year for 2025. Number one, we just have more engaged seniors. We have more people this year who, we know last year it was close to 92% of individuals received negative news on their ANOCs. A lot of people, even though it was the biggest shopping season that we've seen ever, a lot of people didn't actually read their ANOCs, and come January 1st, they went to see their doctor, went to take their medicines, and their plan did not work the way that they thought. And so this year you can expect to have a lot more people engaged reading those ANOCs with a lot more questions. So a lot more people are going to be reaching out to you, which is usually a good thing, except for the amount of SARs and plan disruptions. We are seeing hundreds of thousands in the millions at this point of people who will be January 1st will not have coverage because their plans are leaving the area due to the financial pressures that Medicare Advantage plans are having. And so a lot more people, not only are a lot more people going to be asking for your help this year, a lot more people are going to need your help this year. So it's really vital that you feel very confident going into October 1st and you feel very prepared, and that you don't have any questions about how should I, can I, what should I, what does this look like? That's what we're doing here today. So I want to introduce my guest. First, let's talk about Matt Carson. Just a quick bio, Matt Carson. Anything I missed, Matt, would love to let you to kind of fill in the space. But Matt Carson is our Vice President of Sales at Senior Marketing Specialist. Will be enduring and thriving in his 13th AEP this year, and has spent a huge time when what it looks like when Matt is prepping for AEP is working with the carriers, finding opportunities, talking with our agencies about how can they make the most of this AEP. So Matt, before we get to our questions, anything you'd like to add to your introduction and why you are a great resource to ask these questions to?
Just happy to answer questions. I always look forward to this. I applaud everybody who's taken the time to either join us live or watch this recorded after the fact. Again, just really appreciate agents who are taking the time to be informed, trying to do everything you can to have a great AEP and help your clients. So thanks for being here, and very excited to answer any questions we get.
Thank you, Matt. And then our second guest is going to be Mr. Will Pierce. Will Pierce has joined the Senior Marketing Specialist team back in 2018, has spent a majority of his career both helping agents when it comes to questions, concerns, problems that they have with carriers, with Medicare, with individual policies, but is now has over the past year taken on the role of the Associate Director of our Key Accounts team, which makes up a significant portion of Senior Marketing Specialist production, especially during AEP. So Will, anything you'd like to add about what it's like working with those high producing agents and the demands that they have during AEP?
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Olivia. I'll echo what Matt said. I'm super excited to be here with everyone today. I love the viewpoint that I get working with these high producing agencies, spheres of influence in their community, whole 9 yards. 13, 14-hour days during AEP, if not more than that for some of them. So I love hearing that boots on the ground feedback from them. And I'm really excited today to be able to relay that to everybody on what's helped make these agencies so successful and tools you can implement in your own businesses as well.
Awesome. And then just a little background on me for those of you who don't know who I am. Again, like I mentioned, I am our Vice President of Corporate Alliances here at Senior Marketing Specialist. So a big part of my job is taking the tools, resources offered by people outside of Senior Marketing Specialist. So that includes Integrity and Integrity Connect, all the way down to lead vendors and other organizations that help build our agents' business, especially during AEP. Spend a lot of my time working throughout the industry. It's also my 13th AEP, so I've seen a lot of variation throughout the last 13 years, and has spent tons of hundreds of hours helping agencies grow their book of business by uses of efficiencies and figuring out how to duplicate themselves. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the first question that we have here today, and again, for several of you guys, we did get a lot of these in advance. I'm going to go through some of these questions in advance, but please, we already do have some questions coming in the chat. So please continue to submit those questions. The first one is, this is my first AEP with employees. I'm nervous because since I'm doing everything myself, I'm so used to doing things myself. What are some things that I can do to make sure my staff is prepared for the chaos as much as possible, other than just normal training? Matt, I know you're kind of our guru when it comes to managing people and getting people prepared for AEP. Do you mind taking on that question?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's probably the thing that I'm the most passionate about and enjoy the most here is all the great people that we have on our team. So yeah, I'll share some things from my personal experience and also just from talking to other agencies and maybe a little of the do's and don'ts. So I'm a big fan of the term start with why. I don't know if anyone here has read the book by Simon Sinek, but really getting your employees bought into the mission of what you are doing, to me, if I'm in an agency owner's shoes, would be one of the most important things. I would care about that way more than their technical prowess or their industry knowledge or any of those things. At the end of the day, you just want someone who cares and is really connected to your mission. So I would say look for ways leading into AEP to make sure that you get them as connected with clients. And again, like picturing what reminding them of the impact of their work, and then really finding ways throughout AEP to do that. I know that's something we spend a lot of time talking about here with our staff to motivate people when we are asking them to go above and beyond during AEP and other times of year, of really connecting to that end user, visualizing that. So, for example, if it's someone who's only behind the scenes and is never going to be in front of a client, it can be very thankless and very tiresome to be, whether that's doing admin work the whole time, just answering phones, scheduling appointments, whatever. So trying to get examples in front of people, share the stories of how this is impacting clients' lives, things like that. So could go in depth there, but I'll kind of leave that one again of just make sure they're really bought into the why of the work there. The next thing I'd say is really making sure that their expectations that you're setting for them are in line with like their level of buy-in and their level of competence to your agency. If it is their first AEP with you and they're a new employee, you cannot expect them to want to work as hard as you work. You may be working 10-hour days, not taking a lunch 6 days a week, and then going home and keying in information for your appointments for the next day. You are not going to get that same level of buy-in out of a first-year employee that's making $20 an hour. You're just not. And being very clear about that and making sure that you are setting the right expectations. I will say this is probably one of the number one things we see that is very tough with that first employee is you're just trying to replicate yourself, and all you end up doing is burning out employees one after another. Like, one, they're not owning the agency like you are. They are an employee of the agency, so make sure you're connecting with them with a reasonable level of expectation for what you're paying of them, asking of them, their level of experience, all of that. And again, also just making sure that you take into consideration where you are right now is not where you started either. So don't try to throw everything on them. Think of it as building blocks, I guess, is all I would say. Like, help your staff prioritize what's important to them. You understand the priorities of balancing, the customer experience, having good knowledge and staying up to date on everything, getting through things very timely, the accuracy and the detail of the information, still trying to grow the business, et cetera, right? Like you own the business, you have a good idea of all those priorities. You cannot expect a new employee in the company to immediately understand all of those things. So really help them prioritize what's important. And that's going to be different for each of you based on what you need this AEP. If you're a newer, maybe it's timeliness so that you can get to more clients. If you are very seasoned, experienced, looks like we lost Olivia. Hopefully we'll get her back here in a second. If you are much more experienced, maybe you're bringing on someone and customer experience and not making mistakes is king. So again, just make sure you're very clearly prioritizing that, and that you can't have it all. You can't tell them, I need you to do everything super fast. You can't make any mistakes. They have to have the best experience, and you need to be asking for referrals and cross-selling every time. That's probably not where someone's going to start. So again, just think of it as building blocks. Help prioritize right now, and then build on that in future AEPs based on how long someone has been with you.
That makes a ton of sense. And it's weird. Again, technology, I know I think why I think I'm so good about teaching and talking technology is because I'm so bad at understanding technology. So my computer may be going in and out, but I promise you I am still here. I'm doing my best. Carson and Will too, just kind of a follow-up on that. People who are having admin for the first time, or even people who are used to having admin, what are some activities that your admin can be doing for you this year to really help with gaining more appointments? We do know like the number one resource agents will have this year is time, and it's the most limited. So what can our admin team be doing to help free up our time so that we can continue to meet new clients and retain our current clients?
I think something you can really leverage with your admin, especially during AEP, is non-customer facing time. So that's time calling carriers for application status checks. If that's going through the end of the day and making sure, okay, we faxed in 10 apps, I only have confirmations for 9. Let's go through and find what that missing fax was. Think about where you enjoy spending the most of your time, and then let the admin take on the stuff that you don't enjoy or that's not helpful during AEP. If you, the principal, running 95% of the appointments every day, is your time best spent on hold with a carrier to check on, did you receive this application? Why is it not showing up in the portal? My opinion, probably not. I would say that's a great thing for your admin assistant to be doing. If you have an appointment coming up in the next week or so, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but do you have all those drug lists for those clients in? My personal opinion, and I think Matt, Olivia, if you feel differently, probably shouldn't have that appointment stay on the books if you don't have that client's drug list. And AEP time is so limited, can't be sitting there with them in front of you punching in their 15 meds when they bring you in that Walmart baggie like we all have seen every single year. You got to have those drug lists in ahead of time. Your admin can be calling them and say, hey, we need this drug list in, or we're going to have to reschedule you, and John's time is getting really, really full. I can't promise that we're going to have time before December 7th.
So let me ask you this, Will, since we're on the list, subject of prescription drugs and the drug list and everything like that, that is a huge time suck. One question that we got repeatedly was talking about those drug lists and the most effective way to get them. Because I think what you're suggesting, if I'm hearing you correctly, is like, if you don't have the drug list, we love our clients, we want to take care of the clients, but if you don't have the drug list, then let's reschedule the appointment. I will not meet with you until I get that drug list in advance. And that might be a little bit new compared to how we've taken care of our clients in the past. How do you suggest that people enforce that? How do you suggest that people get those drug lists in advance?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few different schools of thought that I hear from brokers all the time. So a trend we've seen over the last couple of years is an increase in client appreciation, customer appreciation events, whatever you want to name it. And then as part of that event, you can have them bring in their med lists for you. We've got a great partner of ours that has done that for years and has great success with it. Doing that in July or August, we know there may still be a change or two from July until October, but usually fairly minimal, if any. So you kind of have that old school, bring in a paper one, we'll do the manual labor, we'll do the legwork, we'll punch it all in for you. Way that I really am going to be talking a lot about this AEP, and I think for all the AEPs forward is having the customer have a little bit of buy-in and responsibility on doing it themselves. Utilizing tools through Integrity Connect like Plan Enroll. You can send all of your clients a text or an email. They can go in, have a little bit of responsibility in updating their information and making sure that it's all still correct. That'll automatically update in their profile for you as the broker and make sure that you've got the most up-to-date information. And then honestly, it's holding them accountable. If you know that appointment's coming up and you've not seen John's drug list in, I know it's going to be really uncomfortable, and I know it's going to be really awkward to call them and tell them, look, I was really looking forward to meeting with you, but I told you I have to have this in before AEP. I don't have it in, I cannot meet with you. We are going to have to reschedule until I get this in. So kind of a combination of giving them a little bit of responsibility and like, look, I need this from you if we're going to have a successful appointment. And then if you're going to do that, you have to hold them accountable on the other hand if they don't do their part and turn it in.
Yeah, really quick on that one. I just had a conversation with an agent last week about this and got a little pushback of, hey, I just don't think my client's going to do that. And the example that I gave of that they agreed with after we had the conversation is like, what does it look like when you go to your doctor's office or your dentist's office? Mine now, University of Missouri Health, sends you a link ahead of time. and you have to complete that pre-registration link before your appointment. If you go to the front desk to check in, they will direct you to that same link. They got a QR code you can scan, and you have to fill that out before they will even take you back to see the doctor. I was like, they're used to it in other areas of their life. Your seniors may not be used to it with you. They do it in other areas, and they aren't given a choice. You can absolutely do that same thing. And worst case scenario, if they can't do it at home, tell them come in an hour early, have an iPad or two in your lobby there where you can have that ready for them and say, okay, we'll pull it up on here. Sit in the lobby. If you've got questions, we'll help you with this, but like you need to fill this out now. We have to have it done before the appointment.
Yeah,
I also think about this with like the turning 65 market. The turning 65 market is so, they are, well, one, they're the lowest trust in an establishment. They're the ones that question everything, and they're also the ones that value convenience and are used to technology. So yeah, I mean, like I want to focus on like what happens during AEP, which is not normally new to Medicare appointments, though. People still turn 65. People are still retiring during that time of year. AEP isn't the only thing going on. But we're finding that this generation of the baby boomers coming in are the generation that want to be involved in the shopping and want to do the process on their own at first, and then utilizing agents to verify and utilizing agents for the actual enrollment process. So when you get them in that activity early, the first one there, the first agent there is the agent that gets the business. So when you get them involved with you and like and they actually take the time to put in their prescriptions into the plan enroll, like a Retire Flow, another example of that, they're not going to another agent. So it's a really great way to get your foot in the door early and a great way to kind of maintain that relationship that they're not going anywhere else because you've captured their information.
Yeah, and I was going to add on to Carson's point on some pushback that we commonly hear about this as well. Not all of my clients are going to do it. Not all of them are going to be tech savvy enough to do it. And while there may be a percentage of your clients that aren't, if you can knock out half of them and get this done ahead of time, that's a ton of time saved.
Yeah.
That's half of your client base. You don't have to be calling, nagging, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this. Every minute saved is another potential appointment in AEP.
That's a good point. Not thinking in terms of has to fit everybody, but like if you've got 50% solutions, that saves you a ton of time.
Such a great point. Such a great point. There's not a one size fits all, right? So another question we got that was a pre-submitted question. How easy is it to familiarize yourself with Integrity Connect? Now they put in their Medicare Center, and I'll go into like why that's not, I changed it to Integrity Connect. I can address that really quick. Is it too late to get set up and comfortable with the system prior to AEP? So for everybody who is unaware, Medicare Center, the artist formerly known as Medicare Center, I should say, is the shopping enrollment, personal URL, AI assistant enrollment platform that is offered by Integrity, and anybody who has an Integrity or who's working with an upline that is a partner of Integrity. And what that is, you see Medicare Center, they have recently changed the name to Integrity Connect, because that is the purpose of this platform, is to connect agents to their consumers and to connect agents to their downline agents. So lately, because there's been a huge, with the rebranding, there's been a ton of questions right now with agents talking about, I'm seeing this more than I've seen it before. My downline agents are asking me about this. I have the system, I'm using Connecture, I'm using Sunfire, I'm using, with Spark system. Is it too late to get my information into the Integrity Connect, or should I wait post AEP? The biggest thing that I would say, and I want to talk to anybody who has previously used Medicare Center or people who are looking to potentially switch to it, they have made it, the engineers at Integrity have made it so easy to get your information into that platform to where it is just, depending, if you have a few thousand clients, then you're talking about maybe 30 minutes of work to get your entire book of business into this platform. Now, one thing I will say with the Integrity Connect platform, this is something that's built by your upline. You're not outsourcing this. One thing, again, to keep in mind with Integrity Connect, this is built by people who have skin in the game. They are built by people that the only way that they make their income is by insurance agents writing business. That's why we track numbers like agents who write within Integrity Connect write 79% more business than agents that don't. It's because Integrity has skin in the game to get agents to be more productive. And so, but they also have skin in the game that if there's compliance issues or things go wrong, they're also held accountable for that, compared to maybe other CRMs that they're not accountable if you're not compliant. As long as you pay your weekly or monthly bill, then they're happy. So with integrity, the way that they work is that we are hypersensitive to compliance. And I say all that to mention that the only information that you can't necessarily upload in bulk into the Integrity Connect platform is going to be health sensitive HIPAA information. Because again, we want to make sure you're doing everything you can to remain secure. If you're using the platform, it is foolproof. You cannot be non-compliant if you're using the platform. You have to actively be trying to be non-compliant if you're using it. So to keep that in mind, so the only thing that you cannot upload on a mass basis is going to be things like drug lists, health information. However, like Will mentioned, because you have the option to bulk send out marketing, you can send texting campaigns and email campaigns to your entire book of business and filter it based on stage in the appointment, previous messages, birthdays. I mean, there's so much automated marketing that can go out. You can mass send that plan enroll link to everybody and encourage your clients to update their drug list, to update their medications, to update their providers. When you do that, again, consumers, I mentioned this earlier, they're the most engaged than they've ever been. They're the more anxious than they've ever been to get help this year. So when you give them that list now, or you give them that activity to do now, it makes them feel more confident because they're doing something to actively take care of something they're worried about. So upload the information. It is not too late. Another question I've been getting a lot, wasn't asked here, but like, I've been using Integrity Connect for a while. Yes, I like the enrollment platform. Yes, I like the e-applications. They now have voice signatures on their med applications, which I'm super excited about. But like, I don't need training. I don't need updates. I will tell you that platform changes dang near daily because the amount of investments that are going into it, the amount of things that people like, the things that are happening with that. So like, we now have AI assistants to where it will take your meeting notes. It just listens to your meeting notes, updates the profiles, and gives you summaries of what happened in your last appointment. So where you're not taking notes, you're literally just asking the AI, so what happened in my last meeting with Will? Or utilizing the shopping tags to where it's going to give you, I call it the DEFCON system. That's not what it's really called, but that's what I call it. To where like you will log in October, they're actually already happening now. If you've used the platform, you might be seeing it now. But come October 1st, it will rank your clients based on priority. If you don't meet this client, they will wake up January 1st with no coverage, or all the way to, hey, their clients' drugs haven't changed, the formula still works. They're probably going to be okay if they stick on their plan. So that's a huge time saver this time of year. So is it something that it's too late? No, it is not too late. They make it very easy to onboard you. I would say I would really take the time to invest, just take an afternoon, honestly, to invest in all the features. Because if you invest half an afternoon in the features, you will save yourself hundreds of hours during AEP with all the cool features that it takes care of for you. That was my soapbox. Sorry, I get very passionate about the tech. Like I said, I'm terrible at tech, but that's why I think I'm really good about talking about it, because you don't have to be a tech genius to use the technology. If you had to, then it's not a time saver and it's not worth talking about, right? Okay, here's a question that came in with actually Diane. Thank you, Diane, for asking this question. She was asking specifically about the high deductible Plan G. Can folks go back, we were talking about Medicare supplements, and high deductible Plan Gs have been something we've been talking about a lot. She's asking if people try a new high deductible Plan G, can they go back to a regular Plan G if they don't like it? Will, I think this is a great question for you with your background with support. Can you kind of talk about maybe a little bit about why high deductible is becoming such a popular thing, and what are the rules, especially in these new birthday rule states and anniversary states?
Yeah, great question, Diane. I think we're seeing a lot of increased interest in high deductible G and Plan N as well for a handful of reasons. So these are going to be plans that traditionally get less guaranteed issue business from brokers being submitted, which in turn means that that's more underwritten business, that's healthier clients. It's going to usually be lower utilization, lower loss ratios, so very stable premiums for the clients for years going forward. So they don't have to be looking at making changes all of the time, every couple of years, as they start getting these large rate increases. So high deductible G can be a very premium, affordable option if you have clients that are expecting low utilization and they don't think they're going to go to the doctor very much, or maybe they feel pretty comfortable financially, like, okay, look, worst case scenario, I know this is my defined fixed cost that I'm going to spend. I'm super comfortable with that. Let's go ahead and give it a go. Now to your main question at hand on can they go back to a regular G? In birthday rule and anniversary states, the verbiage on GI changes they can make with that is usually like or lesser plan benefits on that. High deductible G to a standard plan G would usually not fall in that bucket of like benefits or like benefits to lesser benefits. So if a client wants to go back to a G, they are going to need to medically qualify.
That's awesome. Thank you, Will. And again, I'm really excited. Anytime there's disruption, you know, it's opportunity. Disruption is opportunity. The med stuff is certainly not without its disruption causes. But what I've loved about this disruption, and it's bringing up some creative solutions and high deductible plan. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this now for 13 years, Matt, as well. High deductible F plans back in the day were like something that were there. They were every once in a while talked about. But it was kind of like agents kind of fell into this order taking where it's just like, you want an F or you want a G, that's what you want, let's price shop. I love that now as agents continue to show our value with coming up with some of these creative solutions, like a high deductible plan G with a hospital indemnity plan and figuring out the value there. So thank you for answering those questions. I imagine we're going to have some more creative based solutions, which I'm honestly incredibly excited about.
One quick follow-up on that is I know we've seen some carriers, and I'm not going to speak to specific ones because I don't want to misquote, but I know we've seen some carriers offering some interesting solutions for conversions from high deductible G into G, where they'll have like a disappearing deductible over time where they can build that up and use that, or some carriers that are offering like after a certain period of time, offering a conversion internally within that same carrier from a high deductible to a regular. So while there's not a universal GI right, there are some carriers that have some unique ways to help convert that.
Great point. Matt, I'm going to lean this one to you. I know that you were just at the local NABIP association yesterday talking about this exact topic. So really topical to talk about it now. And essentially what they're talking about is, I've been hearing a ton about bringing up more products during AEP, especially for cross-selling opportunities. However, yeah, right. However, we also have been talking about eliminating time during the appointment and how time is the enemy. So like it's hard not to talk out of both sides of your mouth, bringing up more products during AEP while also saving as much time as you possibly can for money-making activities. So any advice or tips on doing that during AEP versus bringing up these ancillary products on a follow-up call?
Got it. Okay. A couple parts to unpack there. First of all, I would say one is looking at prioritizing like your time now versus your future time and always trying to find the right balance. There's not necessarily a perfect solution. Again, it'll also depend a little bit on your situation. If you're trying to grow your block this year and like you don't have a full calendar of appointments for AEP, then taking an extra 15 minutes per appointment to add another product to that is probably a wise investment. That's also going to help your retention in the long run if you're getting more products in those households. If you're someone who has 2,000 clients and 1,400 of them are getting SAR'd this year, and you cannot find any world where you're going to be able to sit down with all 1,400 clients this AEP and you have to move all of them, then I could make more of a compelling case of maybe you throw a few fact-finding questions out now and you set this up as a follow-up. So that's the first thing I would say is that like know your different situations that you're in. But if you are not someone who is running 30-minute appointments all day, every day for all of AEP, and still not having enough room to meet with all of your clients, then I would challenge that we can probably find time for you to be able to bring these up. Second point, I also want to make sure we're very clear, like this doesn't need to be something that takes a ton of time in an appointment. If you're doing it right, you can really make this sold during the parts of the appointment you're already going to have. Like if you're meeting with someone and whether you're changing plans or not with them, if you're changing plans, you're reviewing an explanation of benefits for their new plan. If you're just reviewing their current plan and your advice is going to be to stay put, you're still going to be going through whatever changes they had on their plan. During that time, this is what I want you to say and want you to bring up during that. Just as you're going through there, almost every plan you're going to talk to this year is going to have an increase either in the number of days or the number of dollars per day that inpatient hospital copay has. Almost every single plan is going to see that this year. When you are reviewing that with your client, you just need to say something to the effect of, hey, we'll notice that this copay is going up by this amount of days or dollars. This is something that I have seen coming in this industry for a while, And we are seeing this with almost every one of our clients this year. Because of that, I've done some research to try to find some better solutions for you. As you know, it's my job to try to protect build you the best package of protection for everything here. I've got a solution to help make sure that you don't have to worry about those copays. When we get to the end of this, remind me and I'll give you a quote, but it'll be around $1 a day that you'll probably be spending where you don't have to worry about these copays again. They don't need to know that what carrier it is then. They don't need to have an explanation of it'll pay you X dollars for this and X dollars for this and all of that. They don't need all of that detail. All you need to do is throw that little phrase out there and see if someone bites. I will tell you the majority will and will be interested in that. And if they bring it back up at the end of the appointment, fantastic. Like you told them to, you've got them right in a spot where they're clearly ready to buy. If they don't bring it back up again, you've got a reason now to circle back of like, oh, by the way, what I was mentioning earlier there, again, I like that $1 a day. That's a phrase I stole from someone else we like, but genuinely you're talking $30 a month to like maybe $50 a month, probably on the high end for most of these. And you just present it as that proposition, which one of these looks like it's more comfortable to you. A 7-day hospital stay could be a $2,800 out-of-pocket experience, or if you can budget $1.50 a day, we can take care of this so that you don't have to worry about that. By the way, it's got a lot of other things that we'll also pay for, but like this is really the meat and potatoes of it. That's all it needs to be. Now, if you don't have the time to actually fill out an application on the spot with that person, one thing I would say to the question earlier, if you have other people in your office, if you have a front desk person, if you have an admin person, if you have anything like that, if you do that sales process portion of that and they need to just babysit someone while an application gets filled out, you can absolutely do that. Keep in mind, this is not a CMS product. This is not something someone has to take license and appointment, and they don't have to take certifications to do. Again, as long as you are a part of the sales process, you're doing that, you can have someone else handle a lot of the admin part of this, where you're either signing applications at the end of the day, or again, if you've got some technology to assist you there, you're starting an application on there and someone babysits them while they finish filling that out. That's one solution. If you do not have that extra person and you just literally don't have the time, which again, some agents is true. We work with a lot of agents. That is a very small percentage of agents that I believe that for. Then yes, this can definitely be you're fact finding now, and you tell them, hey, as you know, I'm trying to meet with you and 800 of your best friends this AEP. On January 1st, we will be sending out information to schedule follow-up appointments, because I want to make sure we get you this as soon as we can to the new year, hopefully before you have to actually schedule any appointments. So we will be booking appointments in January for everyone then. On your way out, make sure that we get you booked for that, and we will make sure that we get this taken care of. Those would be kind of my two solutions that I would say you can lean to there. And I'm only talking hospital indemnity. There's many more options there, with everybody's prescription deductibles went up this year. A home health care plan literally puts money in your hands to pay for your prescription. So you can use that same transition there. Cancer insurance, everybody's MOOP went up, and most people are moving out of PPOs into HMOs this year. So if you're going to have to travel out of network on a plane, you're going to want a cancer plan to help with it, et cetera, et cetera. So find that one phrase. If you don't know it, talk to us. We can definitely give you that. But those would be kind of my opinions on that.
Yeah, and I want to add a couple things to that real quick if I can here. We talked about when you're collecting drug lists earlier. That's a great time to be starting on some of these products as well. If you're already reaching out to people, making sure they turn those drug lists in. We've seen a ton of GI expansion from hospital indemnity carriers, bumping those ages out. Aetna is a very recent one that just kicked up to 70. If you're talking to an MA client and they're 66 years old, you're already collecting updated drug lists, get the HIP in now, frankly. You've got time, you already have them on the phone, start talking about it, start asking about it. And to Matt's point of this doesn't have to take a whole lot of time for the enrollment, the biggest tip I can give an agent to save time on these extra products is pick one carrier you like, learn it forward, backwards, inside out, and just write that one.
Don't overthink it.
I see so many agents, to Matt's point right there, they get hung up on the what if, the 0.001% of underwriting situations. So, well, what if this insert?
Or what if I quote this plan and someone else quotes someone that's $5 a month less? Like, trust me, they're not getting that many hospital indemnity quotes out there right now. We see
they're not, and clients don't know the difference. They don't know carrier A from carrier B on a hospital indemnity plan, and frankly, they don't need to know. Pick one that you like, whether it's an EAP you like, whether it's, oh, I just love the carrier rep on that one. Whatever your reasoning is, pick one that you like, learn it forward, inside, upside down, whole 9 yards, and just write it for 99.9% of your situations.
Totally. And I like the point you brought up there. I'll end on that of like, these plans are, if someone's between 65 and 79, there's a guaranteed issue option for hospital indemnity. So that's going to cover 9 out of 10 people that you meet with their 0 health questions. A home health care plan is literally, can you complete your ADLs? If you can complete your ADLs, you can get approved for a home health care plan. And cancer is essentially, have you had cancer in the last 5 to 10 years or have some sort of test pending that would show you have cancer? If you can answer those, like, I guess all I'm saying is these are not heavily underwritten products. It's not like selling life insurance. They are damn near guaranteed issue, if not guaranteed issue, on all of these products. So there's not some thorough underwriting process you're going to have to go through. It's, here's mirror, can you fog it?
Awesome. Again, I love the clarification too of talking about, like, time is money. I also want to bring up that, like, we know a lot of these Medicare Advantage companies cannot pay us until after January 1st. So if you want to make sure that you have an income the last quarter of the year and you want to make sure that you can afford to buy Christmas gifts for your family, reminder that these, keep in mind that, again, I think Matt said it earlier, but with these products, one, urgency. For a lot of them, you are still buying them with your health. So if they are going through underwriting, you're healthy today, let's make sure, like, I don't know what's going to happen January. So let's go ahead and get this done. And you're going to get paid as you write it, which is super critical whenever, again, we're doing a ton of work that we're really not going to see the fruits of our labor until Q1.
Totally. Yeah, the phrase I used yesterday was you can't get insurance for your car after the accident. You can't get a hospital plan while you're in the hospital. You can't get cancer insurance when you have cancer. Like, now's the time.
Yeah. A question that we did have come in, so thank you guys, is do we expect plans to continue to go non-commissionable during the middle of the season, in the middle of the year? This is a question that I honestly 2 years ago would have been like, no, we're not going to, people aren't going to do that. They're not going to go non-commissionable. I would like, are they even allowed to do that? In 2025 AEP, and also as we saw throughout the year, so it happened during AEP, it happened last Q4, and it happened throughout the year, we saw plans to straight up say we cannot pay commissions on that, and will not do that. So two trains of thoughts on this product. One, we saw that happen so often last year because it did happen. It didn't happen just a couple times. It happened pretty widespread with several different carriers. And we saw that when a carrier decides to go non-commissionable, they're telling us something. And they're telling us that they simply do not want more enrollment. It's different than suppress. Suppress is we want to slow down the enrollment, right? Suppress means that they're not going to be on any third-party websites or any ability if you want to write the app, you have to do it on a paper app, which is like, we don't want to do paper anymore. Please stop doing paper unless you absolutely have to. And so when we see that, what the carriers are telling us is that we cannot afford to accept any more business. And that happened a lot last year, in particular because carriers did not know how to respond to the financial pressures they had last year. Carriers got very creative, and they also didn't know what each other was doing. So some carriers took significant step back, saying, like, let us take a year to just kind of collect ourselves and see what the competition's doing. Other carriers maybe thought they took a step back, but didn't anticipate or don't have the bandwidth to take the enrollments that they were getting. And about the only thing that they can do is to turn that valve off, as they can't pull the plan, can't do that. CMS says no. The only thing they can do to turn off that valve is to make it so that agents won't get paid doing that, because agents and our participation in these plans are so important to these carriers for them to gain the enrollment. So two things that happened, that's why it happened before. That's not news. We all know that. But one thing to keep in mind is that this kind of set a precedence, right? No carrier did this in years past, or if they did, there were regional carriers, very small. We saw big names do that. It set a precedence that, like, hey, this could happen again. We're not the first. We're not going to get the big negative press because doing this, because this is now a switch that we didn't really have to us prior. That being said, we also know carriers have come out and said it is a last ditch effort. We do not want to do this. We will only do it if there's no other option available, because it does hurt them. So it's not something that carriers are like sitting there in their offices and the CEO is smiling and pulling these levers trying to be greedy. That's not the case at all. They're doing whatever they can to make sure that they can withstand the longevity of being in this business. And so is it a switch that they have that they maybe didn't think that they had years past? Yes, but carriers are smarter. You see a lot of carriers going into this year's AEP with non-commissionable plans. You see plan carriers being much more educated and much more prepared for how the market is going to react to their plans. There's less like quietness in between carriers. Like carriers are going to be much more aware this year of what each other is doing. So I think carriers are going to be much more prepared and much more educated towards the amount of enrollment that they're going to get. So is it going to happen this year? I think it could. But understanding that carriers don't want to do this, and I think that carriers are going to have less of a reason to do it this year. Now, follow up to that question was, well, how do we know? How do we know if mid-year they go non-commissionable? Well, one, just open up any type of social media and you're going to have the world telling you exactly what they think about the carriers. But if you're like me, you try to stay away from that stuff. I don't like the toxic. I just want the facts. Again, this isn't supposed to be a big Integrity Connect commercial, but keep in mind, Integrity Connect does note on the plans if it is a commissionable plan or a non-commissionable plan. So so it will let you know. You can quote them and you can usually enroll them on that platform, but it'll let you know this is non-commissionable. So big red letters. You can enroll this, but you're not going to receive an income on it, and that does stay up to date. That does let you, stay up to date. We get that information as soon as it's made available. That gets put on that platform. So, Matt, Will, any additional thoughts to that?
Yeah, I was going to add one piece of context, and Matt, Olivia, correct me if I have my numbers wrong here, but I believe these plans have to be built out 12 to 18 months in advance from actually like being a plan.
Carriers start new bids in November, so they'll be starting their 2027 bids in November.
There you go. So when we look at like these mid-year changes and mid-AEP news announcements, pulling of comp on plans, it's because when the carrier was building that plan out, they weren't forecasting this much business for it. We saw a lot of that last year in quite a few markets of we weren't expecting to be the lead plan in this one. We're getting a ton more business. This is going to be bad financial news for everyone that's on this plan. It's going to have to get whatever changes for next year. So to Olivia's point, it is absolutely a last resort, but they have to build these out so far in advance that there's so much forecasting and projection from the actuarial end that goes into what do we think is going to happen between CMS from a funding standpoint and utilization rates a year in advance on these plans.
And then you can't adjust anything. It's the bids are locked in June. They get a little bit of change at rebid in August, but like they can't change anything else. They can't change provider contracts. They can't change formularies. They can't adjust co-pays, MOOPs, any of that stuff. The only lever that they can pull is suppress enrollments or pull commissions. Last thoughts on that really quick. I think we'll see less suppressed plans and more just jump to non-commissionable personally if a carrier wants to this year. I think they saw that the suppression didn't slow down business enough last year and just adds more admin burden having to do paper apps. So I think we have that to consider. The last question that someone had asked there was like, how can we know in advance the best we can? I will tell you, if you're meeting in your area and 9 out of 10 members you're putting in the same H number plan, expect that plan. There's a high probability that plan will go non-commissionable before the end of AEP. No carrier wants to get 80% of a market at all, period, this year. No one wants to. There's way too much uncertainty. So if you see a plan that like is so clear above the rest in your area and you think everyone is going to go to that plan, one, I would, if possible, spread out some business there. And two, if there's people who really need to go to that plan, I'd get to them early in AEP because there's a high possibility that writing someone in October versus writing someone in December will result in you one getting paid and one not getting paid.
I do think too, like talking about like in the past, we saw this the first time that this wasn't the case was last year, but in the past there were pretty much clear winners on a county. Like this year, like all of my clients are going to go to Aetna, all my clients are going to Humana, UHC. There was very little variation from who that lead plan was. I think last year we saw some variation from that, and I'll say this: last year there was a lead carrier, not so much a lead plan. I will say I think to see this pretty similar things. I think in 2026 you'll see lead carriers, like carriers that like you're just going to hear a ton about. We're already kind of getting hints of who those carriers are going to be. But carriers this year have tried to, because they've had to play this game of like cat and mouse of like, what comes first, chicken or the egg? Do we lower this benefit, raise this benefit? Do we keep Part B give backs but add a deductible? Like they're having to get creative with how they're funding these plans, with how they're structuring these plans. So we're going to see less one size fits all, and it's going to continue. We did this last year. It'll be the same thing this year. Asking your clients priority questions. Is it a priority for them to have dental? Is it a priority for them to have a network or have an open access network? Is it a priority to them to be able to not have to require referrals? And understanding that every client may answer a little bit differently, not to say like, are they a MedSup or Medicare Advantage client? They might still be a Medicare Advantage client, but understanding that the plans are being structured in a way that the finances and what we're trying to prioritize are going to different benefits of that plan.
That they're going to have to choose now. It's not going to be a case of being able to get all of it.
Exactly. And it's going to be our jobs as agents to ask the right questions to help our clients, to help us understand what their priorities are, but I think more importantly, help them understand, because especially these clients who have been on these plans for a few years, they're not used to having to make these choices. They're not used to having to say, do I want a zero premium or do I want a Part B give back? You know, they're used to kind of getting it all. So they may not know the questions that they need to ask to prioritize, and that's going to be part of our job as an agent. So just keep that in mind. Great point, Matt. Like, you might want to spread out that business. I think if you're asking the right questions, I think that's just going to happen organically. Mary, I lost track of time and got on the webinar late. Was it recorded? Yes, this was recorded. Well, guys, we have about 10 minutes left. I did answer the questions that we got in the chat, and I did answer the questions for those agents who did submit them ahead of time. So, but this is your chance. If you have any last minute burning questions, you now have the next, 10 minutes to get those answered. But while we're kind of getting the last submitted questions, Matt, Will, any last minute, just a couple minutes of advice that we would give to an agent going into 2026 AEP? 11 days left to prep. What do we got?
I'll go first real quick here. I think get excited is one that I really want to say. I know we've talked a lot about everything that's changing, how some people feel that there's doom and gloom in the industry and that all this negative stuff is happening. I can't speak for everyone else on the screen, but guys, I'm excited about it. I genuinely believe that there's going to be so much disruption, that clients need advisors and need brokers now more than ever before. And I think that's going to be a trend that we'll see for a few years, as well as reliance on the brokers and reliance on their local agents as well, really turning back into needing a true advisor in their corner because there is so much change. Olivia talked earlier about how we've got our T65ers want to be involved more in that shopping process than ever before, but that doesn't mean that they don't want an agent. That means that they want a little bit more say. They're used to shopping their group benefits every year. They get their 3 PPO options and maybe an HSA option that they kind of dig through, and so they feel a little bit more comfortable because that's all digital now than it has been in the past. But honestly, get excited. Make sure you have every carrier that you need. Make sure you have a game plan to not only see the clients you need to see, but try to leave room for new business as much as possible as well.
I think those are all really good points. I would just kind of put build on that a little bit with, you have to adapt. Like, don't go into this AEP with the mindset you had from 2 or 3 years ago. Benefits, over the past many years have looked like a choice between a $0 market leading, usually PPO, but MA of some sort, or a, say $150, $200 a month plan G with a PDP. That gap's going to get wider and wider. The $0 plan is going to have a lot less on it, if not this year, in the coming years than it used to. And that plan G and PDP bundle is just going to keep getting more and more expensive. You got to be looking at options in between those things, whether that's premium paid HMOs and PPOs are going to be coming back for sure. I think those high deductible plans, a plan in, and more importantly, like I said, building that package of protection with multiple products in between there. That leap again from 0 to 300 is big. The leap from 0 to 50 and not having to worry about copays, or 0 to 100 not having to worry about copays and having some cancer coverage, whatever the case is going to be something that you will have to adapt to in the next few years. And again, premiums on MA plans for certain members are absolutely going to be a thing that you need to consider going forward.
Thank you, guys. I think the last thing that I would say is 2 things. Check your energy and check your energy vampires. Truly, we have This AEP is going to be tough. It's not new. It's nothing that we're not used to. It's AEP every single year has been difficult for a reason or another. We are not used to adversity. Every AEP has something going on that we're like, this is going to be the hardest one yet. This is going to be the worst one. Again, I've been doing this. This is my 13th one. I can't think of one that anybody said this is going to be easy. That's never happened in my career here. So watch your energy. It's really easy to check in and get with in these communities where it's toxic, people are complaining, people are mad, people are angry. You only get so much energy a day. Make sure you're investing it in productive activities and making sure that you're making the most out of your time. And then stick to the facts. Really lean into our partners at Deaf Research. If you want to talk about the research that they do, we happy to talk about what Deaf does at any point and give you the data that we have, including SAR trackers. They will give us a map of everywhere that has the biggest areas of people losing their coverages and experiencing SARs. But one thing that put a lot of study into is who are your most at-risk clients. Plan details aside, talking about, like, we're not even talking about what they look like formulary wise, plan wise, benefit wise. Just understanding that if your client or you have a client who's been on Medicare less than 2 years, less than 1 year, but less than 2 years as well, they're your most at-risk clients. They're the ones that are the least loyal. They're looking to shop. They're not loyal to agents, and they're not loyal to a plan, versus your clients who have been on Medicare for about 10 years that are loyal to one or the other at least. So just understanding, know the facts, know where your time has best been organized. Partner with us at Senior Marketing Specialist. If you don't know those data points, if you don't know where should I start, call us. We are here to help you thrive and make as much out of hay while the sun shines this AEP as we can. Because again, this is the year to gain client share. It is the year to gain confidence. It is the year to show people our value as insurance agents. And so we just got to make the most out of it. We have a golden egg in our laps, guys, and the people who are prepared, who come up with a plan and then work that plan, will be the agents that come out on top. So that being said, Matt, Will, thank you so much for your time today. I know you guys are spending most of your time over the next 11 days working with agencies, getting them growing. So appreciate you taking time to work with us. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, or promises, call us. Our number, write it down, 1-800-689-2800, 1-800-689-2800. Give us a call. Again, this is a true partnership. We are only successful if our agents are successful. And so we have a lot of resources dumped into keeping our agents productive and successful and confident, especially during AEP. So that being said, Matt, Will, thank you guys. We will see you next time. Thank you for joining Senior Marketing Specialist. Ask Us Anything, AEP Edition. We'll talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.